Okay, let's start talking all things art supplies. You will see in front of you a big pile of stuff. And I'm going to work one by one through this big pile of stuff. Okay? First, some basic supplies that you're going to need is you're going to need a pencil or two. Okay? A Sharpie comes in really handy. A white jelly pen comes in really handy. Not necessary right away, or a white paint marker. This is a China marker. I use these a lot. I have both a black one and a white one because sometimes I work on a dark surface, but this helps a lot. Um, Sharpie makes a great one. I will list all of these items in the show notes, but I use these because I can make marks on the canvas, whether there's paint on it or not. So they're fun to have around. But they also write on many surfaces without having to worry about it. These are oil-based, so you can't erase these lines, okay? And they won't smudge on you. If you don't have one of these, it's cool. You don't need one right away. Really, a pencil and an eraser are going to do you just fine. So I have 3 different kinds of erasers here. Most of the time I'm going to use these, but this one is called a kneaded eraser, and this is really fun because you don't have to rub your paper and ruin the surface of your paper by erasing too hard. This might cause problems, especially if we're going to do watercolor. You're going to want something that's more like this. These are very inexpensive, and again, I will link them in the show notes. This is a kneaded eraser. These are just fine, okay? The end of a pencil eraser is just fine. This is a drawing pencil, but a number 2 pencil will be fine. So just grab yourself some sort of a pencil. A Sharpie is going to be a friend of yours. And if you have it, a white jelly pen or a white paint pen. Of course, you need to sharpen your pencil, right? So a little pencil sharpener. This is called a tortillon. You can use paper towels as well, but this is a shader. This will be used when we have more advanced drawing. We're not starting off with that. So this is not necessary right away. And actually, you can use paper towel if you want. But that's what this is. This shades lines and creates shading spaces so you don't have to try and do that with a pencil. Paper plates are great to have for all of your paint. If you don't have a palette, a paper plate will work just fine. I use paper plates all the time. If you want a palette, a piece of glass, with a cardboard that's painted white taped to the bottom of it is going to be the best reusable palette you can have. Let me show you what I mean. I've had this palette that I'm going to show you for at least 5 years, okay? You can get a stay wet version, which will do the same thing. This has a lid that seals, so I can keep my paint for a really long time in here without wasting a lot of paint. And I paint every day, so it works really well for me. And then I just clean it with a blade, okay? All this is, I have a Stay Wet palette linked in the show notes and all the videos, or you can get something like this. This is a really big, all this is a plastic container. I have a piece of glass in here that I got from an old picture frame, and I taped it to a canvas board that was white, put it in here, and you know what, I always can see what color what true color my paint is, okay? That's why I like this. I paint every day, so I reuse this all the time. So this is what I use. A Stay Wet palette is something very similar, and actually it's even a little bit better. And that's why I have that one recommended in the show notes. A Stay Wet palette literally is something very similar to what I just showed you, but it has a sponge with these special papers that sit on top of it, so your paint will last a really long time in that sealed palette as well. But because of the sponge in there, the papers come out cool. You can rinse them off. It just works a little bit differently. So if you don't want that, or don't have the money for that, or don't have the space for that, a white paper plate will do the same thing. I use these all the time. Okay. Next, I want to talk about canvas surfaces. And for your daily practice, you're not going to want to buy a bunch of canvases. You're going to run out of room unless you repaint them all the time. So for your daily practice, I have a couple different suggestions. One thing that you can do, this is a yogurt box that I cut apart, and I used white gesso and painted over the top. First, let me back up. First, I took Elmer's glue. This is Elmer's glue. I just have it in a little squirt bottle. I took Elmer's glue and I put it over the top of the cardboard and I let it dry. And then this is called gesso. This is basically like a primer. And I put that over the top. So when I'm painting, I see white. Okay. This is a very inexpensive option. If you're just starting out, you can do this. We all have cereal boxes and things that we waste. This will help with that, but this will also give you a nice surface to practice on without having to buy any sort of supplies other than some Elmer's glue and some gesso. Okay? So this is an option for practice that is perfectly acceptable. Another option for practice is an actual sketchbook. So there's a couple different kinds of sketchbooks that I recommend. One of them is a watercolor sketchbook. This is a 9x12. And the reason a watercolor sketchbook works really nice is because you can do it's really thick, heavy paper. You can also use pastel chalks on this and oil pastels on this because it's so heavy. Okay? It's also in a wire-bound book. So unless you pull the sheets out, they're just going to stay there. And if you tape on top of these, the tape is going to pull away just nicely. So a watercolor book. What you're going to find on your surfaces, you're going to want cold pressed, and you're going to want at least a 9x12 and at least 140 pounds is what I recommend for any sort of mixed media. This is a smaller version. This is a 7x10. Same kind of thing. The paper is a little bit rough, but you want that tooth in there that helps make the paint stick. Okay? This right here is a mixed media notebook, sketchbook, still wire bound, still has perforated sheets. They come in all different shapes and sizes. Okay? But you want one that has a spiral bound. You want one that's going to stick together. And you either want mixed media or you want watercolor. At least 140 pounds, 300 gram paper. I would recommend this 9x12 size simply because you can pull it apart. You can tape it down onto a hard surface. You can cut it into smaller sheets. So I would recommend this. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is the next option. This is canvas paper. You can get them in pads like this. And I have these linked to the show notes as well. Any of these options are going to be linked to the show notes. This is canvas paper. Now this is an 9x12 size as well. We can cut these apart and we can get 2 to 4 projects out of this 9x12 sheet. Okay. And they're really nice. One side is not primed and the other side is already primed for you. So there's really no extra work. Okay. That's one of the reasons I like these canvas sheets. It also gets you used to painting on canvas. So this is a nice option. These canvas sheets. You can see here on my drawing board that I have 2 small. These are 2.5 inch by 3.5 inch pieces of canvas cut apart, ready to paint. That gets me to my next art supply, which is artist tape. For all of our painting practice, whether we're doing something like this or something in a bound sort of sketchbook, if that's what you choose to use, or canvas, you're going to need artist tape to section off your work surface. You can also, I would recommend getting some sort of a stiff board, whether it's a canvas panel or an art drawing board or something like that, or a cutting board that doesn't have a lot of, for you crafters, that doesn't have a lot of grooves underneath it. But I would recommend getting something sturdy and flat that you can paint on top of, that you're not going to be afraid to get paint on when we're using some of these pliable surfaces. Okay, so there's that. Now let's talk about paint. Oh, I have a couple more art supplies. A squirt bottle. Squirt bottles are awesome. You're going to want to keep your paint wet. And then a water container. For all of my coffee drinkers out there, save one of your plastic folders. This I use this all the time for my water. It holds a lot. It's a big surface. I only have to fill it half full. I don't get water all over the place. I'm not afraid of it spilling. Okay, so get yourself an old container, jar, mason jar, whatever. I tend to use coffee buckets. When it comes to cleaning your brushes, paper towels work just fine, you guys. But if you want to eliminate waste and you have scrap fabrics laying around that are 100% cotton, whether that's flannel, a flannel t-shirt that you're cutting up, or a cotton t-shirt that you're cutting up, or a button-down cotton shirt, this works just fine too. In fact, I prefer these kinds of rags more because they soak up more water and they don't leave any lint, whereas paper towel leaves lint. Okay? So get yourself some rags, whether it be paper towel or you have some old rags that you're going to cut up and not send to the garbage. Now let's get to the paint. We're already to the paint, if you can believe that. I have some different kinds of paint linked in the show notes. I use several different kinds of paint. The first kind of paint you can get is a Deco Art brand. Now the joy of this is if you go to a Michael's store, they're going to be there. You can just grab them off the shelf. I also have the Amazon link to them. Quick little note about any of my Amazon links, that they do send me a little affiliate commission on that. Your prices are not more if you use my links. It just helps me keep the show going. So if you're going to get from Amazon, I would really appreciate it if you clicked on the link and used those links. Anyway, enough with that shameless plug. Deco Art has a 24 pack standard color. It's going to be all the colors that we'll use for a while. So that's one really easy way. This brand is called Creative Inspirations. They have a multi-pack where the tubes are smaller, like this. That will get you through for a while, and this is a nice brand that doesn't break the bank. Okay? There's also a Meeden brand, which is these paints. These are all in the same price range. This is a really nice heavy body paint. So the difference between this and this is these are not as heavy body as this. So this paint will get you farther. It's thicker, and it dries with more of a gloss. This is the next step down, but you can get more for your buck, I think, on these. And then these are a little bit thinner, but this is a standard craft paint, and these are going to dry matte. There's not going to be any shine to it at all. Some people think that they look really chalky. I've never had that issue. I use these for my paint parties all the time. So whatever your preference is, whatever you'd like to make for your ease of use. If you are going to start painting and think you're going to paint on a regular basis, a big jug like this of your colors might be the way to go for you. I wouldn't start off this way, but if you're going to paint a lot with me, I might recommend big jugs like this. This one is actually from Michael's, but you can get big jugs in any one of these brands that I just talked about. I just put these into a squirt bottle and make them easily accessible, and then keep these on a shelf. The downfall of big jugs like this, number one, they're more expensive. They start off at about $20 a jug. Number two, there's less colors. So my strategy with big jugs like this is I get my basic colors with these, and then if I want specialty colors that I don't want to figure out how to mix, then I get those too. But honestly, if you saw all the paint that I owned, you would be like, no, you don't. You just buy all the colors. And that's a fair statement. It's probably true. It's probably true. Eventually, we're going to need to have a color wheel so you can start to understand why we pick the colors we pick, how we mix the colors we mix. And this is going to be really paramount in creating a really good composition. Okay? So eventually I'm gonna suggest a color wheel. Right now, we don't have to do that, but I will be using this to show you quite often, so you can get used to that. And then let's talk about brushes. I have a comprehensive brush set in the show notes for you. So you could get that one set and be done. If you have brushes that you want to just utilize at home, the minimum that I suggest is a bigger brush, like a 1-inch flat. That's what this is. Some sort of a fan brush. Some sort of a round brush, which is a pointed end. Angle brushes are nice. Detail brushes, we're going to need you're going to need at least one of those. Okay? I have some other brushes here to show you. These are a specialty brush. This helps create flowers. This helps me make hair. This is a brush that I made. It was one of my old crappy brushes that I was either going to throw away or use it for something else. So I cut out some of the bristles and made this brush, which allows me to make hair. And tree branches. And then I would recommend some palette knives. These plastic palette knives are pretty inexpensive, and they're a nice way to start. Okay? Now that's a lot. I don't think that you need to go get all of those things all at once. But again, I am going to recommend some of those things in the show notes, so you can feel confident when you're out there shopping. Looking for art supplies can be really overwhelming, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed before we even start. So be kind and easy on yourself and your pocketbook when you're first starting this hobby. Use things that you have in your house, like paper plates and old boxes with some glue to get yourself started. If you like what's happening and you like where it's going and you like sitting down and creating art, then you can start buying some art supplies. But you don't necessarily have to go break the bank right away. Okay? That is my one suggestion for you. And the other suggestion is we are going to say this every class. Please repeat after me. I cannot do art wrong. I look forward to seeing you in the next class, and that is tomorrow, my friends. We'll see you tomorrow. Be well and have a great day.